Today I want to show you how I get stuff done using Notion. So let's show you how this dashboard works before we begin to build it. So let's say you have your projects here below and your to-dos above. There's nothing here yet, but we'll add those later. So let's say you're on a meeting with team 2. You have an urgent request from a client. Hey, I need to add multi-select to our form builder. When I open this up, because of the template I have set up, you can have questions ready to answer as you're talking with your product manager. You can say, hey, who is the user? When is this due? What clients have we talked to? You know what information you need and what items you may need to prep for next steps. You can enter in any links, paste documents, as well as your Figma files or design files. Let's say we have a dropdown and we're wondering why are not people using the dropdown. And you may have an answer to that, and you may not, but at least you have a list of all the questions or concerns you may have. Then you can always reference those later. So let's add some to-dos. Let's say I want to pull analytics for the dropdown. Understand how people are using it. I need to create a script to ask clients. And then I need to ask client success to help schedule clients. And let's add to-dos for all these. So let's say I can pull the analytics today, and then tomorrow I'll be asking for help once I have that script. So we go back to our dashboard. All of those to-dos are being pulled in. I said I want to do these today, and so now I can do those, create that script. If I need to go in here, I can add more notes, maybe add the links to those scripts. And once I'm done, it goes away. And let's say, hey, this took a little longer to pull the analytics, so I can go back here. I can say, actually, I want to do this tomorrow, and I'll do both of those items tomorrow, so I have them. And they're attached to my project, which is really handy. And then let's say you have like a one-off task, like, hey, I need to review my email today. I need to make sure I get that done, so I can add it to here. Maybe this is a daily task, so I can again just push it off by the daily, or I can check it off and add it again. It's kind of up to you. Sometimes I'll have weekly tasks and I'll move it just to the next week. And that's kind of an overview of how it works. Let's create our databases. Go to your page, type in / which brings up the command, type in page, and now let's create our project database. From this add new area, click table, and then new database. Here you can add the different projects you have. So let's say we have a project to redesign the login screen. We then need to add a status. So let's change this from tags to status. And then let's add the different statuses we might find. So your inbox, prioritized, active, ready for review, review with dev, and completed. And we don't want to be able to select all of them. You want it to be in a single select. You can edit property, go to the type, and hit select. Now you can only have one at a time. Let's say that's an active project we're working on. And then the next thing we want to add is a new column. We want it to be a select, and we want to call it the team 1. So let's say we have multiple teams. Let's name it generic team 1. And let's add some additional projects we may be having, like gathering analytics to understand existing problems. And then let's change this to active. Let's say it's for team 2. Let's have another project of redesign of modal for adding a to-do. Let's say this hasn't been started yet, it's prioritized, and let's say it's on team 1. So we'll go back to our main page, go here and let's go / page, and then let's do a new database called to-do database. Same idea, add new table, click on new database, and you have your name, which is a simple to-do. You have, let's add this as a done. We're going to edit this property, okay, the type, and we're going to say, hey, this is a checkbox. So you can check that when it's done, and then we can move this and adjust it as we need to. So I like to throw it to the left, so there's also this other column, which is basically the multi-select for Notion, which is not to be confused with this, which we'll use later. And then you want to throw in your next column, which will be the due date. So you want the type of the date. Let's say it says due. That's what we want. And then the next important thing we want to add is what we call a relation. So a relation to another database. So we want to throw this into our project database basically that we just created. And you can add a relation. So now anything we put down, we can relate it to a specific project we're working on, which will be handy later. So let's add some tasks. So you want to research existing analytics. You want to set up interviews with users and meet with PM and customer service to go over problems. And let's add another one. I'll call this review, Pendo, and full story. We will set these first 3 to the redesign login screen to-dos, and then we will set this last one to gathering analytics. And then we'll mess with the due date later as we create our dashboard. So we're going to create our dashboard. So go to your main page, /page, call this one dashboard. As you hit enter, it basically creates a blank page for you. One thing I like to do on this is to click this and do full width on most of the stuff that I create. Now I type in /H2 to get a heading. Now let's say this is today's and overdue to-dos. And then we're going to create a new section called this week's to-dos. And the last one, which will be projects. And in between here, underneath the title, we'll create a linked view of our database. So you type in linked, and you get this option of linked view of database. I select that, and then I want to select the to-do database we just created. Here I can see all my to-dos. I like to hide the title here, the database title, since I added my own. And then I like to add filters. So here I can add a filter with the done. So I want to make sure that anything that is unchecked, so if I check something, I don't want it to show up here. I want it to be done. And then I want to add additional filters here to the due date. And I want to make sure that this is on or before today. And there are no dates set in those to-dos, that's why none of those are showing up. Next, we want to add the same table, but for this week. So what I can do, instead of creating using the command for /linked view of database, I can do that. Or I can simply click on this table here, hit duplicate, and drag it right below where I need to. We want to add a different filter to it. So we don't want it to be on to due before today. We want it to be is relative to today, this week. And then we want to dive into the advanced filters. I want to add a rule. And we want to say is after today. So anything will show up only if it's past today. Now the last thing we want to add is our list of project. So we type in /linked view of database. And instead of doing our to-dos, we're now doing our projects. Click on our project, you can see the different items. One thing, so we're right here is a table view that we have. If you click on that, you can change this. I want to view it as a board. I'm just going to group that by status, which is what we want. And then I like to organize this. So I hide the complete. I don't really need to see the complete. I organize this. So inbox is first, then it'd be prioritized, then it's active, ready for review, review with dev. And then if there's no status, I also hide this. So when I'm ready, I can just drag these into the columns I want to, or I can drag them into the complete. And let's say I only really want to see team ones. So I can add a filter here. to the team and say, I only want to see team 1. Then I can rename this to team 1. And what's cool is, okay, now I have a good view of that. I can just simply either create a new view here. I can select this and duplicate, change the name, and then add the filter to team 2 now. So I'm seeing all of my team 2 projects. I'll hide this table. I'll hide this one as well. Now you kind of have 2 different views of all your projects. Now I like to want to add one additional one. I'm going to call this active, but I want it to be of the same item that we're viewing, which is the project database, and I want to be a board view as well, and I want the name to be my active projects. And I can see it shows all of my projects. I can again reorganize this. I typically on this, my active projects, I don't like to see what's organized, I don't like to see what's in the inbox. So I'll hide the inbox. I'll keep potentially my prioritized, my active, and my ready for review. I don't need to see this or this item here. So it's a little bit simpler view, but now it's confusing. So which project goes to which? So I can click this, go to my properties, and I can add my team to it. So I can see which teams are for which, and all that I'm working on currently. Now let's create a template for these projects, which will help us basically utilize this dashboard. Next to new, there's a drop down. Select new template. We'll just call this project. Let's make it full width and just open it up from the get-go. Here, I'm going to create a heading for my to-dos. I'm then going to create another linked view of a database, and this will be of my to-dos. Now I don't want to see everything. I only want to filter this by the project database and the current project. I can then hide my title since I have my own title here, and then I hide this column because I know it's on this project. I then organize this into 2 columns. So type in 2C for 2 columns, a header for information on this side, and on the right hand side, another header for reference. On the information side, I have a list I will just paste in here, but I have a bunch of questions that you can answer when you're creating the project, planning, links to scripts or notes, and user testing as well. This just helps you kind of go through the flow of accomplishing each project and what you need to ask. On this side, I will create a heading 3 for this, and we will call this doc links. And this could be anything, project docs, Epic links, so to Jira or ClickUp or whatever software you use. Let's create another heading for design links. And here I include whiteboarding, whatever software you use for that, and your prototype. So whether you use Figma or Sketch or XD. My last one I create is questions or concerns. Here I just enter anything I may have questions or concerns about as I'm going through the project. Stuff I may not be able to answer right off the bat, and so I want to just keep a list of all those here. And that's the basic of creating a template. The only thing you'll want to do now is when you go to your dashboard, on this project list, you'll have your project template. You want to make sure that you make this the default. And it's going to ask, hey, do you only want it for team 1 as a default or for everything? And we want it for everything. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. And if you haven't signed up for Notion, use my link in the description.